Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Dr. Michele Schaefer. Dr. Michelle, how are you doing, ma?
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, Dr. Mitchell. Firstly, you're an author. You're also a neuroscientist and an innovator. Can you please, Dr. Mitchell, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Dr. Mitchell?
Sure. I pretty much developed an obsession almost with the brain at age 16 and was pretty targeted in my education and built a lot of skills around biotechnology and neuroscience and started my career back at Harvard actually as a research technician. And then once I got my bachelor's and master's in biology, biotechnology, went to graduate school for neuroscience. I started my career trying to understand how the brain codes information, um, and really enjoyed that. And I've been through sort of a broad set of neuroscience topics, ranging from trying to understand diseases like Alzheimer's and understanding sensory olfactory coding, to neuroplasticity and neurotrauma. Um, After a little over 20 years in academia, studying neuroscience, I decided I wanted to try something new to push myself out of my comfort zone and to see what industry was all about. So I'm now in biotechnology, developing in vitro diagnostic tests for infectious diseases.
That is very, very beautiful. Honestly speaking, understanding about the brain is definitely not a easy task, but having that experience to definitely use it as something that could definitely help one another, also using it to bring a book that could definitely be impactful to the community is very, very impressive. And that is why I would like to dive to the experience you've had as a neuroscientist who have learned more on those areas, and you've dived more into your book, Rewire Your Brain for Happiness and Success. Can you please, Dr. Mitchell, discuss more on that book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Dr. Mitchell?
Absolutely. So for most of my life, people kept telling me, Michelle, you have to write a book after hearing my life story. And maybe someday. But what I found was I had gotten to a point in my life after not having luck to build resilience and discipline that I found my way to have self love and self worth and to be disciplined to get things done. And I found a lot of people around me and some that had some seeming success. They seemed to be missing something, whether it was some passion in life or they didn't quite make it where they wanted to in their career, or they were missing some kind of sort of meaningful connections with people in their life. And I think a lot of it stems from not having that sense of self worth, that sense of self love, and the mindset. And that's kind of where the book came about. I've taken a number of leadership classes and emotional intelligence classes and spent a huge amount of time just reading self improvement books. I'm always trying to learn and be better. It's a passion of mine. And so, with all of that, and with the knowledge that I have about the brain and neuroscience, oh, and the other thing is, one thing I found is there are a lot of people out there that they'll tell you things. You'll see these memes. This is especially important in today's day and age, where they'll just say something. And how do you know where does that come from? And it drives me crazy because for me, being a hardcore scientist, I see that they've done some kind of study that's legitimate that supports what they're saying. And so that's what my book is about. I talk about these ideas, but they're all based in actual studies that people have done, well developed, research studies where they see the outcome and it works. And I can tell you for sure that it works because it has worked in my life. So I'm coming at it with sort of my personal approach, knowing firsthand that this works and then it's backed by actual science. And to me, and I've seen it actually make differences in my friends' lives around me, and the initial feedback I'm getting on my book, people really seem to be responding to it well. It's a practical guide to, how you can change your mindset, how you can kind of overcome fears, and to focus on the things that will really get you from, where you are perhaps right now, that's not exactly where you want to be, to where you want to go if you actually follow the strategies. And
Mm.
so it's me just, I call these golden nuggets, these little things I've learned along the way, right? Because before you get over that hill, before you overcome, um, for example, not loving yourself or not feeling self-worth, you don't know. You don't know how do I do it? How do I get there? And you might feel stuck. You might feel that you're just reacting to the world and you don't really have the tools to get there. So my book provides the tools to get there, or I hope it does.
Yes, definitely does. And definitely in a world that is really in a position whereby a lot of people are very isolated. A lot of people are more isolated in our time today, which causes a lot of people lacking something called self-worth and self-love. And that is why a lot of things like your lovely book, Rewire Your Brain for Happiness and Success, dive in to definitely help one to definitely regain such type of happiness one definitely need, because from the experience you've had a lot of experience when it comes to studying the brain, and also from what you've realized with your teaching work. You've taught a lot of people and you've realized one or two things that definitely made you realize that you need to bring something out that will definitely help one to definitely help Israel life to improve that area of self help and also self-love, which is very very important. So I'm very very glad that that experience is definitely being included into those books, and is definitely giving those guides that will help every single person improve their life in one way or the other, which has helped some people, which you said earlier, which has helped some people. And definitely we hope more people will definitely be improved, and also more people will definitely have a better life through this experience you've had. And also I would like to dive to the point of real transformation. When someone wants to transform, it is definitely not a very, very easy task, Dr. Mitchell. It is it's a very high task. And that is why I would like to ask, what do you think are some of the common limiting belief you probably see holding people back from real transformation, Dr. Mitchell?
I think a lot of people, they might not think they're smart enough, right? And I think they might have a fixed mindset, and those two things are almost, they're tragic, right? Because they're just going to really truly hold you back. So if you don't think you're smart enough, you're not even going to try. And my book's all about having forward momentum. Don't worry about the outcome and just think about the growth process. And so if you don't think you're smart enough, for example, just you can analyze that. You can say, well, where does that come from? Why do I think that? And be, really objective and analyzing the legitimacy of it. A lot of times it's has stems from, your childhood, and it really doesn't have much truth. Try to look at, areas in your life that you have made some small accomplishment, that you have done something positive, that have, even learning to read, whatever it may be, learning to drive, learning to connect with other people. Any small thing, I think, can add legitimacy to and kind of knock out your limiting belief. But I would say, accept it, look at it, and just try to figure out a plan of action moving forward. What are the small steps that you can take to move past it? And I would say, don't think too long and don't think too hard about it, but actually start taking small little actions. To me, that is key to life, is having that forward momentum. And I think, a lot of people too, with consuming content, we're all sort of watching podcasts, which I love, and YouTube and TV and listening to the radio and reading, but don't get stuck in that. Make sure you're sort of moving forward and develop a plan, a structured plan, like SMART goals, to actually move you forward. And, you know, I guess another limiting belief is I'm not pretty. I'm not as, attractive as other people. And you might not want to go out and go to the beach, or you might be afraid to give a presentation, even, or whatever. But, what is beauty? And just question that. A lot of people think Mother Teresa, for example, is one of the most beautiful people. And for me, I think the most beautiful people are people that are authentic. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure to talk to somebody who is willing to just be raw and purely themselves. So questioning, I think, is the first step with eliminating belief. And just sitting down with a pad and paper and going through, like, well, why do I believe this? Where does this come from? And a lot of times it just might come from some kind of negative influence you had in early childhood.
Mm. That is very, very, very impressive because whether we like it or not, we are definitely need to have a very real transformation that will definitely help every single one of us to move forward. And that is what is very needed. We shouldn't be stuck in one thing or the other to keep us in one place. I think we have to try our best to also use our own time to move ourselves forward. And we have to do it with necessary step and necessary skills that could definitely help us to also move forward in every single areas that we find ourselves. And also, I would like to dive to some practical exercise or method you think people who probably could be listening now could begin rewriting a deeply ingrained negative thought pattern. So, what do you think is one practical exercise or method you think could help people begin rewriting a deeply ingrained negative thought pattern, Dr. Michelle?
Right. So again, I would say try sit down and kind of figure out, where does it come from? Where do you think it started? And kind of, I think the first step is understanding, and have compassion for yourself first and foremost. And then, you know, figure out a plan of action where you take, again, small steps, and um, try to get beyond it, and don't think too much into the future. Don't think about the outcome, but just, if you are investing in yourself, to me that's the key, right? It's every day, do something small or big, where you're growing, but do something, like, have forward momentum. So for a limiting belief, that would be my starting point. Or for um, you know facing a fear and wanting to get through it, is I think we avoid negative feelings, um, or we're so afraid of failure that we don't even try. And we have to give ourselves that grace to do that, to be in that kind of culture that we're all learning. We're just taking baby steps to get to where we want to be. And it doesn't mean we're dumb if we, like, if we say something in a meeting and it, well, was a little off and wasn't correct. But I think it's great that, you find that courage within yourself to speak up, or whatever it may be. Just keep moving forward and keep taking small actions to get through something. Keep chipping away at it, keep questioning why you think a certain way, but keep moving forward. You can listen to content, you can consume information, but do not underestimate the power of actually taking action. If you don't take action, you're never going to get there. So I would say, allow yourself to feel uncomfortable. Allow yourself to be afraid. It's just a feeling and it will pass, but invest in yourself. And the only way you're going to get through is if you do allow yourself to do that, right? Because you have to fail to be successful. You have to fail where you want to be.
Completely agree with you, Dr. Mitchell, because no matter how small the thing is, we have to make sure that we are showing some kind of improvement within ourselves. Because it is when those improvements are coming in, that is when we will have the sense of self-love and self-improvement in our own way. Because every single thing we are doing will definitely provide us that self-love and self-worth that we need. But if we are in a place and we are not doing anything about our life, and we are just triggered or being in a position, is definitely not going to help, which triggers a lot of things, a lot of negative patterns that are causing a lot of issues. But if we know what we are doing and we definitely project ourselves, do something that will definitely help us to improve our life in one way or the other, I think it will definitely help us in a very, very long way. And we could do that bit by bit, not by the influence of everything, because we should not underestimate what we are definitely capable of doing. Failure will come, that sometimes there'll be failure, sometimes, sometimes it won't work in the way, but that is where we have to learn and know how we could traject ourselves to improve. And that's only the way we can move forward. I remember the time when I started this thing, I was very nervous. I don't want to show myself, but now I think with learning and getting to get to know one or two things, okay, this is happening, okay, let me do it this way. I think that's what will bring the improvement that we need. But if we do not take action, then that improvement will not come. We won't know the next thing we have to do. So sometimes we just have to take some actions that we definitely need to do. So thank you so much for those insights, Dr. Mitchell. And also, you also spoke about in your book, you also spoke about building purpose-driven habits. So what do you think is the key to aligning our daily action with our deeper values, Dr. Michelle?
I think the first step is understanding what those values are. And it's not easy to do that. I mean, some people really understand their core values. But I think sometimes and we want so badly for people to like us. And we're so willing to mm, I don't know, like make concessions that we forget who we are and what we hold valuable. So I would say, take some time away, journal, go for a long walk in the woods, and just think about the things that matter to you. I can say, and this is kind of where I have a daily mantra that you'll learn about in the book, but so think about somebody, for example, that you respect a lot, and think about what are the values of that person, or think about things in your life that you feel really strongly about. And so for me, I think kindness is one of them. That's a value of mine. I line my world around that. I think I used to, when I was younger, compare myself to others. And when you're around a lot of highly successful people, that can be pretty intimidating. And I asked myself, what would I tell a friend who is in my position, who's just feeling not smart enough, not good enough, not confident enough? And, what I would advise them is just do your best. Just do your best. So that's part of my mantra. Be kind, do your best, do the right thing. And, I respect people so much that do the right thing, especially when they don't think somebody's looking, right? Don't try to get the edge up on somebody. Don't try to manipulate a situation. Just do the right thing. Um, and and I wouldn't underestimate like real meaningful connections. And I think that starts from really caring for other people, right? And and giving a bit of yourself, and not have it be all about you, but how can you help somebody else, right? And I used to walk into a room when I was a teenager thinking, are these people going to like me, right? I don't anymore. I walk into a room and I think, how can I make them feel more comfortable, right? So I'm not reacting anymore, but I'm taking action, and I feel so much better about that, right? One thing I started to do, because as a writer, it can be challenging because you're getting a lot of feedback from other people, positive and negative, is I'll just, give a congratulations out there for another author, or say something kind to them. And it's huge because they'll get a whole bunch of people, that are just wanting, whatever, to take advantage of them. And that actually does as much for me as it does for them. So anyway, so I would say figure out what matters to you, and just when you have to move forward in your life, make sure it aligns with it. And you can see this in relationships as well. There's something called cognitive dissonance, and one of the big ones is, I have a post about this on my Facebook book page. But one of the things is, you know, not accepting if you are not compatible with somebody in a relationship, and you try to make it work, right? And but it doesn't, because in your brain you're like, well, we don't have the same political values, but then you're saying, well, but politics doesn't really matter to me, so it isn't that important. But on a daily basis and weekly and over time, there'll be situations where the tension builds and you just feel separated from that person. You're not aligned with them. And your brain will fight against that. And that's, relationships are one example. But I think in a lot of things, in your work as well, if you say are working for a financial institute and it's all about money, but what you really care about is sustainability and the environment, it'd be better to figure out how to transition your career to do something that matters more to you than just making money. So I just say figure out what it is that drives you and that you're passionate about and that you feel um, gives you peace of mind at the end of the day, and find ways to align that in life. So for me, I'm really passionate about well, a lot of things. So I have trouble to narrow things down, but I really I really believe in science and technology and innovation and you know human health. And so a lot of my, even beyond that, with people around me, I try to inspire. It's something you can be passionate about, and I want people to be passionate about it. So that's something I'm aligned with. And yeah, so just understanding what your values are and figuring out how do you kind of work your life around those values. Um, it can take some time to actually truly understand, have clarity in that, but it's worth the time and effort, I think, to do that.
Mm. I definitely agree. And also, you and I will agree, Dr. Michelle, that, we in this life, we just have to try our best to know what we need to do, which is our values that will definitely help us to grow. Because we just have to try to understand. I think what is the issue during our time currently now is people do not really know what the truth is. People are really restricted with the truth because when we know the truth, I think we'll definitely have a life of kindness, a life of humility, a life of giving care to one another, a life of community. Because whether we like it or not, we are all here one day and we are also definitely going to live one day. And definitely we have to have this sense of quality. There are a lot of people who have made a lot of, wealth, a lot of achievement in their life. But the most funniest part in our time currently now is we only know few of them. And that is what we have to give the sense because we just have to continue to do good because that is just the beauty of the life we find ourselves. So we could find our values, see how we could develop it, and see how we could gain this sense of peace with these values we are trying to build. I think we'll have a life that will be more fulfilled, more happier, and we could live a more fulfilled life in a very beautiful way. And that is why it's very important. As you as a person, Dr. Mitchell, you are doing yours, and it is definitely impressive and productive in its own way. It doesn't matter if it's going to go far. It doesn't matter if it's going to go low. But the main thing is I am at peace. I am doing what is right, and I'm seeing the growth coming in. I think that is very
Yeah.
important. It goes fine. It does not fine. Whether I like it or not, I'm still living on this. So what's the stress? So I think that gives that kind of kindness, that gives that kind of humility that we need in our time. Because if we have that, I think we'll have the sense of genuine connection with people. And also, I also like to dive to the type of one mental habit you think can help increase this momentum towards this inner mastery, Dr. Mitchell. If you think you could offer one daily,
Oh, just one. That's hard.
just
I would say in today's, can I give two? So certainly take action every day. Find some small way to do something, whether it's just to do something kind or to push yourself out of your comfort zone, or if you're trying to learn something, don't just read and don't just watch YouTube videos, but actually put it into practice. It'll be that would be my one advice. Yeah. I would say try to, and then something too that's easy. Try to develop a mantra. So I talked about thinking about people that you respect. Um, Figure out in yourself what you need to work on, and develop the right thing. Do your best, and you know the way I see it, that's the most that we can do, right? And I would not expect more from a friend. And if you do those things and you respect yourself and you can build love for yourself, I don't, once I finally got over the hump and I actually, because I know when I put my head down on the pillow that I'm honest, I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing my best. That's all I would expect of anyone. So,
exactly. That is the beauty. That is the best life we can live. I am doing my best. I'm putting my all effort. It goes well, fine. It does not, I will learn. And that is the beauty. And most of the time, the answer is always within us. Most of the time, I do agree we have to get research. We have to check YouTube, social media, and all those type of things that could definitely assist us to go forward. But the most right answer, I think, is within us. If we do know where we are, this is where I am. We know the next step we need to take, and there we could definitely improve ourselves. And if we take that next step, no matter how it is, it's always rough. Even from my experience, it's always rough. But definitely with that roughness, we will learn something. Then from what we learn, we use it to grow. And no matter how it's where it takes us to, fine. So far we're doing what is right, and something that could definitely impact the society and the community is definitely reliable and impactful. I also want to sincerely thank you for those insights, Dr. Mitchell. Lastly, Dr. Mitchell, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Dr. Mitchell, what do you think that thing would be, Dr. Mitchell?
I think it would be a sense of community. Just even though I'm a big advocate of science and technology and innovation, and it does make our lives easier and provides us with a sense of, you know, pleasure in itself, we need to stay rooted with just being connected to one another and caring about one another, doing the right thing, getting to know our neighbors, being there for people that we know. Um, I think that's really important. It's just
Yes.
building a sense of community, finding ways to do that in the modern era with all this technology. It's so easy. And, we have all these dopamine rushes from, watching content, but uh, really take pleasure in those small moments of just connecting with another human being, with walking through a forest, with the simplicity in life. I think they're underrated, and sometimes we don't feel that rush right away. And just give yourself time to breathe, to get back to some of that and enjoy some of that, right? I think when you first start doing it, it might not feel as pleasurable because you're not getting that dopamine rush, but you got to allow yourself to get there. And I promise you that you'll have a much more fulfilled life if you do that. You look for those simple moments.
Mm. Honestly speaking, nature is powerful. Nature is very powerful. And I do know that that is what we are definitely losing in our time today. When I was very young, and I'm a very young guy, so when I was very young, I do know how powerful connection is. I do know how meeting one another, showing kindness to one another, family, care, support within one another. I know how helping it was. And during the time that we are now, I think we are in more disconnection time due to the social media that we have. But I think we definitely need to have the sense of having this physical connection with nature, mountain, something that connects with the breeze and the simplicity of life. I think it also helps us in healing. It also builds that kind of humanity that we need within ourselves. We do know that social media has helped in many ways, but we could definitely have our sense of physical connection that will definitely help us to also grow in one way or the other. Because whether we like it or not, we are definitely brought into this world with what we have around us. These things are not something that is really connected to the nature that we have currently. We are only the ones connected to it, and we are the only the ones that it could definitely work well for. So thank you so much for those insights. And I also want to sincerely thank you for the opportunity and the time, and also bringing this improvement when it comes to rewire your brain for happiness and success, which is your lovely book, which should definitely help one in terms of happiness, in terms of getting this sense of real transformation that will help them improve their life and become a better person for the world they find themselves. I want to thank you for the time and the opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. And
All
best
right.
of luck with your ventures.
All right, Dr. Michelle. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Bye.